A Leeds United star has now permanently left the club, probably if these reports are correct. And whilst the Whites will see plenty leave this summer, it could be on loan, it could be permanent. There are all sorts of players probably going to leave. But this is the first permanent departure, and it's already taken place and will be absolutely colossal for the window ahead. When I say that it affects every single move that we're going to do in this transfer window, I don't feel like that's an exaggeration because it really sets the tone. So, what happens next and what's just happened? I'll let you know in a minute, but first, subscribe. Cheers. It's massively appreciated. It's one button just down here. Just boop it. Be quite nice. Anyway, diving into it, we have our first senior move away from the club this summer as Roma have completed the move for Diego Llorente. He might not be a player that you've especially been thinking of recently, but he did have a period in which he was a fairly big player at Leeds United. In his first season, towards the end, everyone saw him and Strauch playing together and went, Llorente is quite good. And then reality struck. What's basically happened is that he has triggered a €5 million clause in his deal with Roma after playing 50% of games available for the club. He did so a fair while ago, but if I remember correctly, this is a specific clause that he would need to trigger because you're not just going to get sent to another club because they want you, and even if you don't want to be there, you would need to somewhat consent to that move. This happened because he played a hell of a lot of football under Jose Mourinho, who played fairly passive stuff, often three at the back with Llorente and Rasmus Christensen. But since Mourinho left, he's played significantly less football under De Rossi. Because of this, because he's not likely to get that much football next season, because he's not a big part of that squad, it's reported that he's likely to leave on loan next season anyway, which makes sense to me because I don't think Diego Llorente is quite a Roma-level player, especially when we've seen his downsides. As far as I can tell, Rasmus Christensen does not have a similar clause in his contract from what I've read around, and I don't know if he's played that much anyway for them, and I don't know if he'd want the move because he's not going to play for Roma either. Rasmus Christensen has had a good few stinkers at the club. So the Diego Llorente move is potentially good for Leeds United just because it gets a little bit of money in, but ultimately, what does it mean going forwards? It's not just this one deal that this affects. Everything you do in football pulls at a string that affects everything around it. And in this case, this could be huge for the club's finances. £6 million a year is reportedly what he was earning in wages. At least that's what Angus Kinnear told the Square Ball on a podcast a fair while ago. And that's a hell of a lot of money to be paying one player, especially at the championship level. If he would have come back to Leeds, yes, he would have lost something like 40% of those wages. Still a hell of a lot. That's still 3.6 million a year, something like 70k a week, which is far too much to be paying Diego Llorente in the championship, when I would argue that he wouldn't make our 11 right now. Aside from that, there is the £5 million fee, but I'll be honest with you, that £5 million fee doesn't make the biggest of differences. Yes, it takes a big chunk out of the transfer debt that we owe various clubs for this summer, 70-something million pounds, down to 30-ish if you consider the players we sold to Bournemouth, 25-ish if Diego Llorente is going to Roma. But outside of that, it's not the biggest of fees and isn't going to be that big in terms of strengthening the squad, but it means a hell of a lot outside of the club finances. First up, that it demonstrates that we have a key ability to sell. At the moment, when you look at the Leeds United squad, you wouldn't think that's got a hell of a lot of bloat in it. That's got far too many players, and we need to sell them. But if you consider the Leeds United squad and everyone else that's out on loan, all the players that have decided, no, actually, I want top-tier football. Your Mark Rocker, your Max Wuber, your Rasmus Christensen, all sorts of players. Jack Harrison, another example. What you need in this window is the ability to sell, rather than just send them out on loan. Because even if we're still in the championship and they have the right to go out on loan, if we're able to negotiate those sales, those players aren't our problem anymore. At all, which is fantastic. In addition to that, there is a lot of resale value in that loan army, and it's not just in the selling of the players either. It's in the wages that you'll free up. It's in the FFP headroom that you will give yourself, and I'm sure FFP predictions will be within the club for what if we don't go up and we end up having to keep some of these players? What if we don't go up and we're able to get rid of them all? What if we do go up? Fantastic, fun times. FFP is less of an issue. But the fact that we've been able to sell one of those players before the window is even open is a spectacular start to the process. In addition to that, it frees up space in the squad for next season. If there are players that we can't even loan out, your likes of a Brendan Aronson, who hasn't impressed in Germany, then the fact that we're able to get rid of all these players beforehand means that there isn't a risk of taking up places in the squad because you've got limitations on the number of players you're allowed to register. I reckon we just wouldn't register them anyway, but who knows? Aside from that, it brings a massive change in the morale of the club. This is, in my opinion, one of the more important ones. A club is almost entirely based on the way that its players are feeling and the way that they are performing. If a single player, say, we'll pick out an example, Ethan Ampadu, if he's off it, if he is in his own head feeling crap, surrounded by co-workers that he doesn't like, that he knows don't want to be there, he's not necessarily going to be playing at his best. And since we had that if you don't want to be here, then fuck off conversation last summer, with Liam Cooper not here, I think we should continue that legacy, and anyone that doesn't want to be here can indeed fuck off. We don't want them at the club right now. And this sale is the start of that. It's the start of building a sort of morale and character within the club of players that actively want to be here and players that have taken steps to remain here even if they had the option to go elsewhere. Losing Llorente after he's been missing for the last 18 months because he left in the January of the relegation season, brilliant, fantastic. Now we can get started on the rest of them. And in addition to that, ultimately, it sets the tone that we are getting the job done. Because no doubt there will have been someone from the club saying, Diego, you're not going to be welcome back here. You've got this clause. You can activate it. Just go. And putting on that pressure and making sure we're getting that business done as soon as possible, getting it done early, is essential in this transfer window. I don't know what division we will be in. You don't know. The club doesn't know. Nobody does. Maybe you're a time traveler. Maybe you can know. Doctor Who's on later. Very nice. But the fact that we're able to sort of set a tone early on and say, no, if you don't want to be here, you go now, and then we'll have the money in and we can get something done. And it means that we're getting the business done as soon as we can. Players have a full pre-season with Daniel Farke, and we're looking better next season, regardless of Championship or Premier League football. Sets the tone perfectly and makes sure that we're on the best possible foundation to either stay up or go up. But ultimately, I want to know what you think. This isn't just about Diego Llorente. This is about the club's wider transfer business. This is about what's going on throughout the side. And that's a hell of a lot. And I want to know what you think about all of that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. That is always massively appreciated. And you can even become a channel member. All that money right now is going towards Prostate Cancer UK as part of my little Balls Knowledge program initiative thing that I'm doing. In addition to that, I've got another announcement on that coming at the end of the season. Whether that is after a playoff final or after Thursday, I don't know yet, but we'll have to find out. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you later.